Hello, everyone. Dr. Skirbo here, speaking to you from the Seeds of Transformation Healing Center in Wareham, Massachusetts. And as promised, we're going to be looking at the week ahead, which is actually the week that we're in because I did not get it ahead of time. But we'll be looking at the week from April 11th to April 17th. And even though it is already, what is it today, the 13th? There's a lot to be said for the week and a lot to be said for what's already happened that'll still be useful to you guys. So let's get started. We're going to look at this new moon that occurred on Sunday. That was the 11th. And I'm just going to share my screen with you here as soon as I find what I'm looking for. Here we go. All right. I do have a nurse coming for my mom today, so I may get interrupted, but I will be back and continue as my day unfolds before me. So here we go. Let's get a fuller view of this slide here. Okay, so we start with Sunday. Of course, Sunday was 2 days ago. But on Sunday, we had a very powerful new moon in the sign of Aries. It was at 23 degrees of Aries. And as I always do, I like to look at the Sabian symbols for these significant occurrences, especially when we have conjunctions. That is the new phase. That is the seed that is being planted. And, you know, we are at the Seeds of Transformation Healing Center, so I'm very interested in seeds. Seeds have all the potential and the potential energy of whatever cycle that we're looking at. And this cycle is the cycle of the sun and the moon. So it's a monthly cycle. And of course, this is the first new moon in Aries. The sun has been in Aries for a while now. And finally, the moon has caught up to the sun and we have a new moon in Aries. And so while the Aries energy, and we've been feeling that energy moving forward, some of it has been very painful, as always, when the sun moves into Aries. A lot of things can occur, things happen that can make us angry, or people's anger comes up and people lash out at this time. And we certainly have seen that since the sun has been in Aries. And of course, we have to remember that Chiron is in Aries, and a lot of the Aries energy, especially at the beginning of Aries, was wrapped up in that Chironic energy. And Chiron in Aries is the wounded masculine. It's wounds around identity. It's wounds around just the right to be alive, really, and the right to become and be. And so it's a very independent, it can be a wound centered around independence, either lack thereof or too much independence in some cases. So these are things that we need to evaluate while the sun moves through Aries, and the other planets move through Aries, the Mercury and Venus and those planets that move through Aries. And of course, we had Mars in Aries in 2020 for 6 months. So that Aries energy, and part of that time was retrograde. That summer to fall to the beginning of the year, Aries energy is still manifesting itself in different ways. This new moon accesses some of that energy as well, because the Mars retrograde cycle in Aries did go over this degree, this 23rd degree, 3 times. And let me see if I can just look and tell you what time of year that was. Excuse me. And all right, let me just look here in my ephemeris. Okay, so we're looking at 23 degrees of Aries. So last year in 2020, the first time that Mars moved over that degree of Aries was looks like August 13th. August 13th. So on August 13th of 2020, Mars moved over that point. And then Mars went retrograde and retrograded over that point. Let's see here. What day was this? 23. So that was October 5th. So we're looking at August. What did I say? We're looking at August. Sorry, these numbers are so tiny. All right, we're looking at August 10th, and October 5th. And then it went direct again. And then the last time it went over this degree was, let's see, 23 degrees right here. December 21st. Now, what's significant about December 21st was that was also the day that Jupiter and Saturn made their conjunction in the first degree of Aquarius, starting a 20-year cycle. So this is a significant new moon because, in a way, it's connected to that 20-year cycle. So the things that you're planting at this time, the things that you're planting at this new moon have significance for really the next 20 years of your life. If that's not enough, that's not enough pressure. So the Sabian symbol is a pregnant woman in a light summer dress. And the keynote is fecundity, right? So it says masculine aggressiveness and a woman's desire for fulfillment, phase 21 and 22. This is actually phase 23, right? Are integrated and realized in the expectant child. This threefold sequence can be seen operating at several levels. The third term, the child, can take various emotional and cultural forms. The basic meaning remains the same. Summer is a period of fruition. Man at the receptive woman level reaps the fruits of his dynamic activity. And the key word here is inner fulfillment. And so as we have moved into this new moon at 23 degrees of Aries, the seeds planted at this new moon are seeds of our own inner fulfillment. What fulfills us from the inside out? What fills our heart with joy? What fills our heart with love? What are those things? And why are we not seeking those things, right? Aries is about seeking. Aries is, I want to live a life. It's a new beginning and a very powerful time for that. And so what I would say is find the thing you're most passionate about and then focus your life on that. If you're most passionate about creating something, art, do your art. If you're most passionate about politics and you want to get involved in your community, get involved in your community. Put your energy where your heart is. Put your energy where your heart is. The heart is ruled by the sun, and the sun is exalted in Aries. And so it's important for us to really move into our heart's desire with this new moon. Speaking of my heart's desire, my cup of coffee?
Are you on tape?
Yes.
Yes. I came down to tell you it's done, but
Hi, I'm back. Michael's gonna go get me a cup of coffee. His Mercury is in Aries, actually. I think it's at 22 degrees of Aries. So it's right on this new moon. And he has a healing modality that he has been doing for, I think we could safely say it began in 2011. 2010, 2011. And he has been working it, and he does most of his work through Facebook. That's his preferred platform. And you've seen him, well, maybe you haven't seen him, but I've done a couple of videos with him. And we talked about doing another video, and I'm going to see if I can get him to do that this week, because this is a good week for that. And we can talk about his experience with receivings and how it came to him, and his just general experiences. And I think you guys will really get a lot out of his story. And so keep your eyes peeled for that. I'm gonna do my best to convince him. He's a little camera shy. He does not have a Leo ascendant like I do. He has a Cancer ascendant. And while he likes to be the head of things and he likes to be in charge, he doesn't always like to be in front of the camera. So I'm working on it. Okay. So this new moon is about inner fulfillment, and we have the new moon right here. This is erected for Washington, D.C. We could erect it for having an Aries ascendant, which I might actually show you. That just so you can see the difference. Now, this is Washington, D.C. This is how it's manifesting itself in this country. The fifth house is the house, first of all, it's the house of the stock market, which, of course, everybody talks about in this country. It is the house of children. It is the house of creativity. It is the house of love. It is the house of romance. And so, you know, there's this sort of heart-centered energy, being in your heart and being creative. So here in America, it's important that we do be creative in the way that we are, moving this energy through. We also have a conjunction to Eris here and a conjunction to Venus. And Eris in Aries is an energy of rebellion and wanting to be seen and wanting to be heard and wanting to count. It's about wanting to count. And last night I was perusing the stations, and something happened in Minnesota, I think it was. And I was watching it on Rachel, and then I watched a little bit of Lawrence, but then I changed the channel, because it felt to me like they were actually trying to make it more than it needed to be. But there were certainly people there who were angry and who wanted to count and was tired of authority, getting away with all of this stuff. So it was, I feel like the energy and the sentiment was certainly there. But again, I don't know what happened. So but that energy of rebellion is in the air, and it's very strong at this time. And it's true on both sides of the fence, on the fence of the righteous who want to bring love and equality, and also on the side of those who want to squash that. So we are in a battle, really. Excuse me. Biden talked about the soul of America. We're actually in a battle for the soul of America. But I'm a true believer that love is the way forward. And so that which fosters love and connection and reaching out is what we need. We need the peacemakers, really, to make peace, because we've had plenty of practice in making war, and now it's time to make peace. Okay, so let's take a look. We're going to look at this chart with an Aries ascendant. So this is the chart with the Aries ascendant, and we can see just how much stuff is in Aries. We have Chiron in Aries, the wounds associated with being who you are, right? Or the wounded masculine. And then we have Mercury in a close conjunction to Ceres is death and rebirth. She's also the goddess of grief. There's a lot of grief that will be expressed through this lunation cycle. We have the sun and moon, of course, at 23 degrees, conjunct Eris in I think the next day. Today is the 13th. I think today or tomorrow, maybe. Eris, we'll go over it. Eris makes a conjunction to the sun, and Venus just came off of a conjunction to Eris. And so here we have the pissed off feminine. We also have the divine feminine. So there's all this energy of divine masculine and divine feminine that's going on right now. The Mars, which is the ruler of this new moon, right? Because it's a new moon in Aries, is in Gemini. And what's interesting is it's very close to the Gemini, to the Mars, the United States Mars, which is at, I believe, 22 degrees of Gemini and located, at least in the Sibley chart, in the house, in the 7th house of relationship, which is both relationship and compromise and working together and justice, but is also the house of open enemies. And so we can see there are people at the extremes at this time. All right, so we see all of that energy in the 1st house. And of course, we have to remember that we have been in a pandemic for a year, and people are wanting to come out. People are wanting to come out into the world, and there's a push for that. That's the energy of Aries. Aries pushes out of the crust of the earth, right? And puts its shoots out there, and it doesn't know what it's going to face, but it almost doesn't care. And so there's that energy of wanting to face the world, where angels, fools rush where angels fear to tread. Aries is, in a way, the fool of the tarot. It's the breath of life, right? It comes in and incarnates and falls off the cliff because it's not watching where it's going. So we have this energy of coming out, and we can see this happening in the outer world, and you could be feeling it within your own inner self. Okay, so let's continue now with the other thing that happened on. So I just have to do a new share here. The other thing that happened on Sunday, the 11th. Let me just find it here. Just give me one moment. Okay, here I found it. Sometimes it's hard to keep track. All right, so we're going to go back to making it the whole page here. Okay, so here we have the chart again. And we also have on the 11th a 1st quarter square between Venus and Pluto. This occurs at 27 degrees of Aries, which is where Venus is, and 27 degrees of Capricorn, where Pluto is. This Pluto is within a degree and a half, I believe, of the US Pluto. So things happening at this time are going to be very intense. Now, Pluto is going to change direction at the end of this month, and it's going to start backing off of the Pluto. So there's more pressure on the transformational energy of Pluto. Pluto in Capricorn, in that 2nd house. This is rebelling against authority, right? Against the police, against that whole patriarchal system. And so that is happening at this time as well. And in this sort of stew of revolution and wanting things to change and being tired of being held back and being tired of suffering and nobody hearing you. People want to be heard. People want to be seen. People want to live the life that other people get to live. You can't blame them for wanting to take life, in their own hands. And they're willing to fight for it, Aries. Now, we do have this first quarter crisis in action square. So we have a crisis in action square based on our relationship to power, relationship, Venus, our relationship to ourself, Venus in Aries, our relationship to our own spirit, Venus in Aries, pushing against Pluto in Capricorn, those who hold all the power, those who hold all the money. This is the push now. So this particular conjunction was actually, this particular first quarter square was initially seated at 26 degrees of Capricorn. And this occurred on January 28th of 2001. And so this happened after the insurrection, right? So the energy was different. This happened after Joe Biden had taken the presidency here in America. So the energy had already started to shift in the direction away from Trump and towards Biden, right? Towards Biden. And then, and we have been in this wave of that particular administration sort of coming up as a wave, right? And coming in and washing over the country. This square is part of that wave. And so the 26 degrees of Capricorn, where the initial conjunction occurred, was a nature spirit dancing in the iridescent mists of the waterfall. The keynote here is the ability to perceive the hidden and creative spirit of natural phenomena. This is about being in harmony and being in alignment and being in the flow of nature, because even though Pluto in Capricorn deals with power and the structures of power and the structures of government, Capricorn is an earth sign, and it's about the earth. It's about the rising up of the earth and a new relationship with her. Well, you know what?
Yeah.
Is it the right side? I know. I mean, it might be something there, but it's not.
Yeah, I think you got it.
Just everything's- It's a lot of energy. Too much dairy in general. At least cut down here. Let's cut down here.
Between the half and half the cheese and then ice cream.
Yeah, I know.
All right, babe, I'm out.
All right, sweetie. When you left, Mom was still all right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Get
Thanks.
back.
Okay. Sorry about that. I had to step away and adjust my husband. So you actually heard all of that. All right, so let's resume the share. Okay, hopefully you got that and heard the adjustment of my husband as well. Okay, so let's go back to the slide, the slideshow here. Here we go from the current slide. Yes, sir. Give me a, oh, I don't know why it didn't do that. Resume slideshow. Here we go. Woohoo! All right. And hopefully we're recording. Goodness gracious. Okay, we're still recording. So a relationship with nature is at the key and the core. And really that's what the rising feminine, one of the things that the rising feminine requires us to do. It requires us to have a better relationship with the earth and the people who are most connected to the earth, the indigenous populations, right? Who we have decimated and we sinned upon. And so this is part of the healing process. This is part of the new refinding, or maybe for the first time, finding the soul of America. The soul of America sort of started with slavery and making money off other people's labor. Wouldn't it be lovely if this new energy that we're bringing in is about having a relationship with the earth and the people of the earth, and having having harmony in that. Imagine what we can do together. Imagine the peace that can fall upon the planet if we're just willing to open up to each other and deal with our needs. Very, very simple things, enough food, a roof over your head, the basic necessities that so many people don't have. We can no longer continue that way of being on this planet. It is time to do a very profound shift. And these profound shifts are all part of really what 2020 was about and the future is about. So the position of Venus in Aries is at 27 degrees of Aries. It says, through imagination, a lost opportunity is regained. And it is in a crisis in action square to Pluto at 27 degrees of Capricorn. The Sabian symbol for that degree is pilgrims climbing the steps leading to a mountain shrine. The ascent of individualized consciousness to the highest realizations reached by spiritual leaders of its culture. So there is a little bit of a sort of crisis with what the spiritual leaders have set up to this point, to this new awareness that we have of in the empowered feminine. So again, it's a time of revolution, but it's a time of bringing that feminine energy in. And the feminine needs to be heard, and the feminine needs to feel its feelings, and we need to grieve what has been lost. And with the tears of our grief, we plant the seeds of transformation of a new earth, And if we look, we have the two, we have the initial conjunction. Here we are. Where is it here? The initial conjunction, Venus and Pluto here, and it occurred in the 10th house for the United States chart. So this is a change in leadership. This is a change in an expression of bringing the feminine and the feminine principles into leadership. And certainly Joe Biden brings that energy in. Joe Biden he said, he's like, they're in charge. He says that about the women in his life. And he couldn't have done what he's done for 50 years as a politician without the women in his life supporting him. That would be his sister and his wife, his daughters, his granddaughters, you know, all the women in his life, and Kamala Harris now, and all the women that he's put in positions, in cabinet positions. This changes things. And God willing, we can have at least 4 years of that and maybe more of that. But that's not here nor there, because we're in the moment now and we have to make the best of the moment that we have. And over here we have the square. And this square, we can see that it's happening on the new moon. It's just a little past the new moon here. We have Venus here still in the 5th house, and we have Pluto in the 2nd house. And so the 2nd house is where Pluto is in the Sibley chart anyway. So this is about our resources. And this is about creative distribution of those resources. So we have to distribute in a creative way. Okay, so that's what's going on there. On Tuesday, which was today. Okay, so I was right. It is today. Today we have the Sun conjunct Eris at 25 degrees of Aries. Now Eris has been in Aries since 1925. Spends its most time of its orbit in Aries. It has a 500 and something year orbit. And so its orbit is twice as big as Pluto. Pluto takes 248 years to go around the zodiac. So to a certain extent, we're having our Pluto return in the United States. But if we look at Eris, we're probably closer to a Pluto. Is it a Pluto square or a Pluto opposition? It's past the square, I think. The United States has Eris in, is it Capricorn? I don't know, actually. I'll have to look at that. So 25 degrees of Aries, the possibility for man to gain experience at 2 levels of being. The keynote here is the revelation of new potentialities. In some unspecified way, the symbol is a guarantee that man can operate successfully at 2 levels of consciousness if he has previously met the conditions mentioned in the preceding symbol, which is a symbol of being open, being able and willing to shape your translucent mind into the form revealing spiritual fulfillment. What are you here to do? What is your purpose? And how are you going to impress that purpose on the world? How are you going to fulfill your destiny? That's really what this is asking. And you will be able to experience life and the power on inner as well as outer levels, outer planes. The implied message is one of faith. Man can only truly experience what he deeply believes he can experience. Believe in yourself. Do not believe in a political figure. Do not believe in a God that's outside of yourself. Believe in the God that is within. This is the last stage of this 5th fivefold sequence of cyclical phases. It announces the possibility of a new step in evolution, but it is still only a possibility, a promise. The individual is truly on probation. So there's no guarantee of success here. What there is an opportunity and a door being open for you to put yourself out there and do your work. And here is the conjunction. And this is for Washington, D.C. And in this case, it occurs in the 8th house of transformation. The 8th house of transformation. The 8th house, the Scorpio house. We have a Scorpio president. And I don't think there's anything in Scorpio in this chart, no. But Scorpio rules the 3rd house in this chart. So it's about opening our minds. It's about opening our minds. And of course, when we're dealing with this energy, we look to Mars again, and we still have Mars in Gemini, right? Because Mars is the ruler of Aries, where all this action is happening, and we need to communicate with each other. We need to talk to each other. We need to open the lines of communication with each other. That's going to help. We also have a sextile of the Sun and Mars today. Mars is in Gemini, of course. The sun is in Aries. This is part of a synodic cycle that began way back on September 2nd of 2019. It occurred at 10 degrees of Virgo, and the Sabian symbol for that conjunction was two heads looking out beyond the shadow, the growth of true understanding born out of a transcendence of duality, even while immersed in the world of duality. One of the things that the Trump presidency has done for me and has done for people that I've spoken to about it is that it's required us to live in two different realities. The reality of what was happening on the ground and having to deal with all the pain and suffering, or in some cases, the sense of righteous, that this is the right thing to do. And on the other level, staying above it and trying not to be affected by it in a negative way, but allow what you were experiencing to reveal something of a higher truth for you. So there is this need to open up to a bigger, broader picture of what's going on. Otherwise, you get caught up in the pain of it, and that will eventually exhaust you and make you sick, actually, which is probably one of the reasons why COVID as an energetic thing came in to help us to clear away those who were just too sick and tired of things as they were, to clear out, in a way, energetically clear out. They will have another opportunity at another time to come in and manifest their work. But they said, well, when this comes along, we're going to go and then we'll come back. So I feel like there's a flow here, and that everything happens for a reason. And this whole experience has been here to teach us how to stay in alignment with the fifth dimensional reality, the heart-centered reality, where time doesn't have rule, into this third dimensional reality, which is our body and our physicality and our earth, that time does rule. And so how are you going to use your time? How are you going to use your time? On Wednesday, the 14th, Venus ingresses into Taurus. This is Venus in the sign that she rules. Venus is in her dignity. She loves this. Venus in Aries was very active, but she doesn't really like being in Aries all that much. It's like she gets to be herself. She gets to take off her armor, and she gets to take a nice shower, and then she gets to put on her comfortable clothes, maybe her gardening clothes, and now she goes and she starts to till the soil for all the seeds and all the experiences that she experienced when she was moving through Aries. On the 15th, we have a Sun sextile Jupiter. This is a waning sextile. It opens the lines of communication and gathers information. Is this a waning sextile? Hold on, let me see here. The Sun is in Aries, Jupiter. Yes, it's actually a waxing sextile, not a waning sextile. It's a waxing sextile. This is part of a synodic cycle that began January 28th. Again, that day, January 28th, at 10 degrees of Aquarius. The Sabian symbol for 10 degrees of Aquarius, a man who had for a time become the embodiment of a popular ideal, is made to realize that as a person, he is not this ideal. This is a fall from grace for somebody who claimed to be something that they really weren't. The keynote here is the need to deal with human beings as persons rather than screens upon which one projects one's dreams and ideals. One of the reasons that Trump did so well is because he was a screen for the aspirations of the people who followed him. It wasn't him. It was, they saw themselves in him, trod upon and I'm a victim and I'm white and I'm being victim and I'm Christian, I'm being victimized. Why am I so why am I the one being tortured in this situation? And yet they weren't. I mean, to a certain extent, maybe like emotionally or psychological or mentally, but the physical torture is happening to the people who they're blaming everything on. So it's about those two parts of ourselves coming together, because we are all human. We are all human, and this is about being a human. And we have both parts of ourselves. We have the light and the dark, and the light and the dark have to come together, just like the white and the dark have to come together, the white people and the darker skinned people. And eventually there's going to be a blending, so there is no color, right? There's all colors, right? And so the whole rainbow is there. The whole rainbow, all the colors of the rainbow make up light. We need all parts of the light. Okay. Let me just, I just need to check something. Excuse me a second. Okay, I have a reading I have to get ready for, so hopefully I can finish this. All right, so this, on the 16th, Friday, we have the first quarter square of the Sun to Pluto. This is the first crisis in the relationship between the Sun and Pluto's, whose synodic cycle began January 14th, 2021 at 25 degrees of Capricorn. The Sabian symbol for this is a store filled with precious Oriental rugs. This is a symbol. This was one of the degrees that we had. I think twice. This was the degree of the Pluto-Jupiter conjunctions of 2020. Those Jupiter-Pluto conjunctions were connected to rises in the COVID numbers. So we do have to be aware that with this first quarter square, we might see another rise in the COVID numbers because it is connected to that. It says the use of cultural and artistic processes as a means to enhance personal comfort and appreciation. The square is the pilgrims climbing. This is 27 of Pluto, of course, the same degree as it was when it made the square to Venus, because Pluto is pretty much at this degree all month. Pilgrims climbing the steps leading to a mountain shrine. The ascent of the individualized consciousness to the highest realizations reached by spiritual leaders of its culture. Square the Sun, which is at 27 degrees of Aries. Through imagination, a lost opportunity is regained. This is the same symbol as the last square. So this is important. We can take what we've learned from our elders, and now it's about imagining something more, imagining something based on that, but also further than that, right? Further than that. And there are certain things that we're going to have to let go of as well. Here's Pluto and here's the Pluto conjunction and the Pluto square. Originally, this conjunction happened on the 14th. It happened in the 11th house. The 11th house is the house of humanitarianism, right? And we see the square happening now. Here's the Sun. The Sun is again in the 11th house, but now we have Mars in the first house. Let's talk about it. Okay. All right. And Saturday. Saturday, we have Mars trine Jupiter. This is a waxing, creative, self-expressive trine. Mars is at 27 degrees of Gemini. The Sabian symbol for 27 degrees of Gemini is a gypsy emerging from the forest wherein her tribe is encamped, reaching out toward the participation in a larger whole. And that is trine, which is a flowing aspect to Jupiter at 27 degrees of Aquarius, an ancient pottery bowl filled with fresh violets. The importance of traditional skills and artistic values deeply rooted in man's instinctual feelings and frames of reference for man's most authentic emotions. The theme is the same here. The theme really is about emerging from your past experiences and then looking to move into new experiences but with the wisdom that comes from your past experiences, the wisdom that comes from your time at the gypsy camp, right? The wisdom that comes from the ancient bowls that hold held for centuries, right? The flowers. So this is the wisdom, right? So this is the energy. This is a creative expression of the initial conjunction between Mars and Jupiter, which occurred on March 20th, 2020. So this was right around the time we went into lockdown. It began at 23 degrees of Capricorn. 23 degrees of Capricorn is a soldier receiving 2 awards for bravery in combat. The reward offered by a society for fulfillment of an individual's responsibility. This is the same degree as the Pluto-Saturn conjunction of January 2020. The Pluto-Saturn conjunction, the beginning of a new structure of power based on responsibility, based on bravery, based on doing a good job. And there's a certain amount of sacrifice. You know, a soldier sacrifices themselves for the good of the country or the good of the whole, right? And this is what's being asked of us. We need to work together. We have Mercury sextile Jupiter as well on this day. This is opening the lines of communication. And so if we want to do this, we do have to talk to one another. Through imagination, a lost opportunity is regained, and an ancient pottery bowl filled with fresh violets. Regaining opportunities. We also have Mercury sextile Mars on Saturday. This is opening the lines of communication around action, Mars, and speaking, Mercury. Through the imagination, a lost opportunity is regained. A gypsy emerging from the forest where her tribe is encamped. We have these 3 symbols all sort of working together. And so we can create a different future. We just have to be willing to take what we know and be brave enough to go out and experience life with that wisdom behind us, but open to new experiences and new opportunities to change the world. And we also have on Saturday, Mercury making a first quarter square to Pluto. This is a crisis in action. 27 of Aries, through imagination, opportunities regained, and the pilgrims climbing the mountain shrine. Again, these are symbols that are showing us the potential for our future. This initial conjunction began on January 4th. This was the 2 days before the insurrection. At 25 degrees of Capricorn, a store filled with precious Oriental rugs. This is about changing our minds around power and taking actions and building foundations for us to embody that power within, not power over other people, but power within, the feeling that I can be responsible for my own life and I can help others as they become responsible for their own lives. But we need the opportunity. There has been very little opportunity. The opportunity is here now. And here's the Pluto-Mercury. Here's the initial conjunction. It occurred in the 6th house, which is the house of health. Of course, we're still battling COVID here. And now we have the sun in the 7th house. It's actually in the 7th house, which is the house of relationships, and it's the house of give and take and partnership and listening. We have to listen. And we have Pluto in that 4th house. We need to listen to the wisdom of the elders. We need to listen to the wisdom of the earth. We need to listen to the wisdom of the indigenous. We need to listen to the wisdom of the slaves. We need to listen to the wisdom of all of our experiences and what it has wrought, and how are we going to move forward from that experience. Okay, so that's that. Let me stop the share. And the next thing I am going to do is a card reading, but that is going to have to wait for a little later. In fact, I might actually do that in a separate video. So let me do that in a separate video and I can get this one up. Okay, guys, much love. There's your week ahead. And I will see you back for the card reading. Take care. Much love. Hello, everyone. This is the reading for the week of April 11th to April 17th. There is a lot of things going on this week. We have a new moon to start the week off, very powerfully placed in Aries, conjunct Eris and Venus. We have the sun making a conjunction to Eris, its yearly conjunction to Eris. Eris, of course, being a relatively new archetype that we're working with, named after the goddess of discord. So check out the astrology of the week, and I talk a little bit more about Eris and have a few realizations actually about her while I'm talking to you. So check that out. We also have some first quarter squares, crisis in action squares. We also have some sextiles and some trines that help us to communicate with one another, have a flow of energy, have a flow of information, have a flow of love and spirit and all of those things, and creativity. So this is actually can be a very creative week, not without its challenges. Of course, we always have challenges. And so the revolutionary energy is very, very high. Getting caught up in extremes is not going to serve you this week, but there will be some extremes around. So that being said, try to keep a bigger and larger picture about these things, and while still paying attention to the details. We have to know the details. We have to look at the details. We have to consider the details. But you don't want to get on either end of too much detail or not enough detail, right? Okay. So we are doing a reading, and I am using the, what is the name of this deck? Oh, it's behind my coffee cup. Okay, so we're using the Witch's Wisdom Tarot. The Witch's Wisdom Tarot. All right. Let's see what the Witch's Wisdom Tarot has to say about this upcoming week. All right, so we start with the Goddess of Fire. Oh my goodness gracious. So here we have the Goddess of Fire. This is the crone sitting in front of her cauldron. She is making a soup. She is making a soup. She is blending herbs together and vegetables and meats and magic. And she has her cups ready. She sees the cups or the bowls next to her. Bowls are symbolic, right, of receiving, right? We receive when we go with our bowl, like, who was that, Oliver? Yeah, I have more, please. More food. Yes, we're coming with our bowls, and our bowls will be filled. Our bowls will be filled by the wisdom of the feminine, a woman who has lived close to the land, perhaps. She has her little house in the background, but she's not cooking in her house. She's cooking in nature. And so this is about a connection to nature. And so if you can this month, cook outside if that's an option for you. If you have a barbecue or a fire pit, or even if you just want to roast a marshmallow over a candle as you sit on your deck or on your front porch or on your back porch, or eat next to an open window if you can't access the outside otherwise. because it's either not safe or it's just you can't get out. Some people can't get out. So it's this energy of fire, it's this energy of wisdom, it's this energy of nurturing, nurturing, and using all of your gifts. Now, a stew or a soup, as most of us know, the longer things sort of sit in a soup or a stew, the better it tastes because the flavors meld. The flavors create their own magic. And it's interesting because this is, of course, kind of symbolic of the melting pot that so many people talk about when it comes to America. America uh, eventually is a melting pot, but it takes a long, long time. And so every immigrant has had to sort of go through the gauntlet with this stuff, right? And so, but eventually we come together and we are about to have our Pluto return, so our soul's birthday, as it were. And we will see how well we do with that. This new moon at 23 degrees of Aries is actually in a square to the Pluto of the United States. It is in a crescent phase square. It's not quite exactly square, although what happens this week is the sun does come to its exact square to Pluto. So while the new moon is not an exact square to Pluto, a few days later the sun comes. It meets up with Eris, the goddess of Eris was an outsider. Eris was an outsider, as is this woman who sits outside. She is an outsider. She is living on the fringes of society. Um, and that energy, that sort of wild energy, yet that wisdom from nature is the energy of the moment. Our challenge is the two of fire, the two of fire. We have the Kundalini rising. And so there is a rising of the energy. There is a spiritual initiation at play. Why is that a challenge? Because we may not know what to do. There is this energy of all of this energy coming up and having to and wanting to take an action on it and yet not quite knowing how to handle the energy that's coming up. So it requires us to have some patience when it comes to how are we going to work with this magical energy. At the root, we have the six of earth, the six of earth. Here we have all these little lizards coming to this little sort of um, uh, puddle, really, in a rock, right? Where there is no water anywhere else, there is water in the rock, in the divot of the rock. And so, as we stand on this, we're being asked to look around at our resources and be very careful with our resources at this time. And so there's all this energy of creativity and beginnings, and we could possibly overextend ourselves. And that is something that we don't want to do. We don't want to do. We do want to be, however, aware of where our emotions are fed. Whatever situation, whatever relationship that is, be aware of where you can find the cooling waters. Because all this fire, we need some water in the picture. So be aware of where that is. So when you need to get it to either drink it in because you're too hot or to put out a fire that might have gotten out of control, this is the kind of thing that you need to stay aware of. That is at the root of it. In the past, we have the three of water. This is ease. This is a sense of togetherness. We have these three swans. Are these swans or are they ducks? Okay, they're ducks. Three ducks sitting under this tree in this very sort of watery place. And so what lies behind us is a sense of coming together, is a sense of friendship. This is the three of water, is the card of friendship in the Kabbalah. And so it is part of the sustaining of us at the root is to remember who our friends are, remember who was with us, who celebrated with us. Let's see what's in the sky. We have the Four of Air. The Four of Air, we have a, if we can see, we have some eagles up there very high in the trees. There's a nest. This is in the sky, so this is available to us, and this is perspective. We need perspective and we need space. We need perspective and space. The Four of Air, the Four of Swords, is often the guy laying on what looks like a slab of marble, and he's got the swords above his head. It's about rest and relaxation. So we still need to keep our space from one another. We still need to socially distance. We still need to be careful with the air. Okay? So that's something else that this is telling us. We need perspective, we need space, we need to understand where we're at. And the way to do that is to get to the highest point and look around, get the big picture and the outcome. The Three of Fire, the Three of Fire. This is a beautiful card to come as the outcome, because we can see that we are moving through very emotional place. This is full of water. It's kind of dark. It's a little spooky. What's in the water? What is that? What is that slithering over there? But what sort of guides us are these little lights along the way, right? These little like fireflies or little spirits, little elemental spirits of fire. And so this, with all this fire and water in this card reading, I feel like there's a spiritual initiation occurring. And so there will be water and fire. Fire is inspiration, water is feelings, feelings, inspiration, all of this very, very somewhat tumultuous energy. And yet Spirit says, keep your perspective through this, and you will find your way through. And at the end, underneath it all, is the Ten of Fire, which in this deck is, I'm just trying to see what this red thing is. Is that a cardinal? So in the background here, I don't know if you can see it, there's some wolves, right? And the fire of Spirit is keeping the wolves at bay, right? It is the winter time here. We can see that there's snow on the branches, and there's a cardinal. Cardinals are symbolic of spirit, people in spirit. And when I did my new moon candle on my altar, I have a little cardinal, a little plaster cardinal. And so Spirit and our ancestors and our family that have passed want us to know that they are by our side through this. They are not far. We may not be able to touch them, but they are right next to us. And we can ask for their help just as they ask for our help and our prayers and our remembrances, to not close down because of the pain of loss to those people that we love. Okay, guys, that's what I see. Have a great week. Much love. Namaste. Like and subscribe, and I will see you soon. Ciao.